My next question that I posed, if you go to the next slide, Petra, is why do we only thread model an engineering process and engineering technology? As cybersecurity, as information security, as a business, do I really just care about the engineering? Do I just care about development? Why do we not thread model the business processes? We have common languages that we'll be developing for engineers and data flow diagrams that show infrastructure, but no one is speaking about how do we thread model the business process? How do we thread all the standard operating procedures? Human interaction. We can fall under attack with the human interaction. We don't have threat modeling scenarios, and there's no way of us raising risk. We don't actually, up to any of the threat modeling sessions I've been, looked at it from a different angle, apart from actors acting on the technology stack. All actors that we see is interacting with technology stack, not acting with the human aspect of the business, with the business process. If I can inject a business process into your company, can I hijack your whole company? Can I hijack your financials? Can I hijack your human resources team? We don't thread model this, and everywhere else in other industries, not security, we consider threat models for terrorists. We consider threat models for aeroplanes and aircraft, aviation. There's a lot of different threat models that happen out there that's not just technology focused. But when we talk about cybersecurity, we always look at it from an engineering perspective. We always look at it from a development perspective. We never look at the actual threats that could pose to the business from a business process point of view. And my last one, if you go to the next slide, my approach. And again, a lot of questions that I kind of trying to figure out as we evolved and mature in threat modeling. For me, it's trying to get threat modeling as the early stage of engineering, because engineering is where we are best placed at the moment as a company and as an industry. We are always closer to engineering than the actual business and process. So threat modeling as code, what Petra presented, for me is the new way of actually approaching threat modeling, get us closest to the development. One of the things that we keep trying to do is mature the threat modeling, but at the same time, we need to make sure that there's maturity levels for threat modeling. So a company that's small as Zava or as small as 5 users will not be able to do a threat model at the level of a tool that you purchase on the market. So we need different maturity levels for threat modeling. A company that has 0 to 5 will use the different methodologies and the different stages. Define what is expected in a threat model. I think that's quite important. When we bring together everyone on the threat modeling session, we need to define what we expect them to bring to that. Is it diagrams? Is it a knowledge of the system? Is it the threat modeling methodology? So do they need to know Stride? All that we need to define what we expect them to do in a threat modeling session and teach them prior to a threat modeling session. Rather than spend the time on a threat modeling session going through Stride and explaining what Stride and what we're looking at, if they're required to know that, then we teach that prior to. There need to be a clear expectation of what do we do in a threat model. A threat model doesn't need to be perfect. That should be B, not half. Sorry for the dyslexia. We are too focused on making things perfect in the industry, but you don't get to perfect from stage 1. There's a maturity path. So I'm happy with a basic flow diagram that I could do some threat modeling on, than having an automated way of producing all those threads. So we need to have that maturity level again and understand that we're not going to be 100% thread model everything from day 1. It's a maturity path. And my other approach is to make threat modeling fun brainstorming experience. Every threat model I've run or been a part of, I've learned so much about the application. I've left the threat modeling knowing that the engineers and developers have learned a lot more about how their code and what flows work better than prior to the session. Make it a fun brainstorming experience, and then you get that buy-in in. Post a lot of questions there, and I'm hoping we have some discussion at some point. I'm not sure if we have time on this session to how do we best approach all these questions? How do we make sure that threat modeling isn't a barrier to the business, isn't a friction, and we're actually achieving threat modeling at every stage that we need it to be?